on the microphones. I'll call this meeting to order. This is town council meeting for the town of Alpine, October 15th at 7 o'clock. We did it, 7 o'clock. Look at that. First thing, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's see, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Good evening, Mayor Green. Councilman Larson.
Here.
Councilman Dickerson. Sorry.
Here.
Dickerson. I choked on myself here. Mayor Green.
Here.
Councilman Castillo.
Here.
And Councilman Burchard.
Here.
Mayor Green, you have a quorum of the council with all members present.
Thank you. We are missing Mr. Sanderson tonight. He was actually giving testimony at the Wyoming Supreme Court today, so that took a little bit longer. So just keep that in mind. If there's anything that we need to ask him about, we will have to have another meeting to do that. So we have another meeting coming up on November 6th, and then the next one, that's a special meeting, and then the next meeting will be
I can't see all the calendars behind it.
Monica. Sorry, guys. It would be the 19th.
19th.
Yeah.
Yep. The 6th is a Wednesday. We moved it to Wednesday because of the election on the 5th. And then the 19th will be the standard Tuesday, third Tuesday. So let's see. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approval of agenda.
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. All those in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Has everyone had a chance to peruse the consent agenda? Because
Yes.
it's quite lengthy and it has lots of approvals in there, pay orders and things of that nature. But did everyone have a chance?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're working through this. All right, on to reports. I'll go first. So tomorrow night there's a ribbon cutting at the new Women's Health Clinic over here. Tomorrow, I believe it's at 4 o'clock.
Yes.
4 to 6. So we're super excited. They've kind of had a soft opening for, I don't know, about a month or a little bit over. But we're very excited and happy to support them. So if anyone's around 4 to 6 o'clock, they're going to have the ribbon cutting. October 31st, there's the big Halloween bash, and we're going to be, again this year, doing candy out in the parking lot there. So I'm sure everyone knows about that with the little kids. And also just want to encourage everyone to get out there and vote. This is a real important election. So yeah, I think most everyone realizes that there's an election coming up soon, but I just thought, haven't really put it out there, but yeah, look forward to, there's some things like the SPET tax, which we have on there, and there's a meeting coming up, which is in 2 days. Am I right, Monica?
I'm sorry.
Is this that meeting?
The SPET tax meeting is
Thursday.
Thursday at 6:30.
Thursday at 6:30 at
The Civic Center.
the Civic Center.
Yes, sir.
So that one is real important. If you've been here in the last 6 months, you've heard us talk about it. But Alpine's bringing 3 projects forward for about $1.6 million. That SPET tax should generate somewhere in the range of $22 million is a conservative estimate. Well, that's what the projects amount to, and it should bring in around $25 million. But with everything going on down in Kemmer, it could probably surpass that a lot faster. So anyways, there's some good projects. If you have any questions, please come Thursday, 6:30. We're going to have it hosted on YouTube, and then it can be streamed by anyone in the county for more information. So It looks like we're missing Kevin from Jorgensen, but I'm sure he put his,
He did.
let me move down here.
Yeah, there was a report.
There's a report, so if anyone has any questions on that, you can download that, and then we'll move right into planning and zoning. Mo?
Hello, council. How are we tonight?
Very good. Thanks, Mom.
Good. We had a few permits and whatnot coming across the counter, or across the table, pardon me. There were a couple that we had to table, just need a little some more information on them before we passed them on. We had some discussions about the moratorium, had a good conversation about that. And there was just a few more things, just some other conversations that we've had, nothing too drastic. We went through the permits and stuff that are going on. We'll go through those a little bit more tighter next meeting. We just ran out of time. It was a little bit of a lengthy meeting.
How many new applications did you get this week?
So,
Or each
so we had a total, I believe, of 4. Let me take a look at my notes. So much pressure. Yeah, we had 4 that came through and 2 that we had to table until we could get a little bit more information
Okay.
before we could let it go through.
Anything else?
No.
Any questions?
Any
for
questions? Okay.
Mo? All right, thank
Thank
you.
you,
Mom.
So,
Easy off the hook. Now we'll move on to Councilman Larson for economic development report.
Yeah, we'll kind of slide economic development down with travel and tourism and go utility easement first. They're wrapping up on the hill. There's white flags everywhere, so which means fiber's coming to homes fairly quickly. So once the fiber comes to the houses, they plan on wrapping everything up with regrading and gravel. But project seems to be coming along pretty good. They're moving fast and doing a good job. Alpine Travel and Tourism, we had our October meeting last week or 2 weeks ago. Handed out or got the feedback from the grant recipients from the summer. Great job with the music in the mountains, the arts fair, and this is where I'll kind of segue into economic development with SVI Media. One of our projects was SVI Alpine. Mr. Mayor, you want to type in SVI Alpine on that?
Sure.
We haven't done the true roll out the red carpet, but it is live. So you can go to svialpine.com, and this is essentially catered to our area. We know we get news from Jackson, we get news from Afton, but this is now more catered specifically to us in the middle with what the goings-ons of Alpine. So from news to events to places to stay, it's been a coordinated project between this board and the Travel and Tourism Board as far as economic development. And once we actually do the official rollout, we'll let everybody know. But something to just kind of get us all honed into what's happening around here. That's it.
You did it. You knocked them out quick.
That is it.
And then we have the Lincoln County Sheriff report in writing. So then, next item for business, or the first item for business coming up is we are doing the bid openings for the master plan, the water and wastewater capacity fee, and the GMC 7500 single axle dump truck. I'll start with that one. Winnie, our truck, you've seen her out front for a couple months, and we have finally gotten some bids. So let's open them up real quick. And we will be awarding the bids
Under action items
for
tonight, for that.
this one, right?
Yes, sir.
Someone put tape on it, Monica.
Well, it's because when they were opening utility payments, they were
Don't we all
opening them and
fucking
they didn't realize it was a bid and they opened
Okay.
it.
Well,
We
we're
know
just-
you do, Mom.
We're just ripping it.
Rip it open.
Don't be scared.
Okay, wow. First bid is $15,250.
Yay.
That's good. Sorry, I know that it's killing you guys to not know.
What was the minimum that we placed on?
I think we put a reserve of 10,000.
$10,000, yes.
Okay, here's one that's handwritten. 16,000, yay.
That's nice, we're going up.
Winnie.
They keep getting bigger.
Who knew Winnie was so appealing?
Popular.
Oh, Walton.
Yeah, whoever gets her needs to keep calling it Winnie.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, this guy even he put Winnie on the bid. That's kind of a kiss-up move, but let's see. Okay, this one was 11,000.
Okay, we know why they're
Yeah.
quotes now.
Okay, last one, it looks like, there's 4?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Another handwritten, $10,111. They were doing the old prices right thing, so. Anyways, yeah, sounds like we can, oh, put that one on there. And so we will be looking at that during action items. The next thing is we have master plans. So we received 6 proposals for master plans today. And then what we plan on doing, you'll see it in action items, but we need a chance to actually read through these, see who's encompasses everything that we're going to want for our master plan, and then we'll be awarding that at the special meeting on November 6th.
And Mr. Mayor, just because I know that these are very interesting to the public, I have, after the 5 o'clock cutoff to receive the bids, I attached them all to the agenda and republished it. And so they are all attached for anybody at home or here who'd like to read them.
Thank you.
They're all attached. So if you go to our website and go to the meeting, open up the HTML version of the agenda, the packet, and that'll give you those links like you see on the mayor's screen. So they're all in there now,
Yeah,
Perfect.
so you can all read them.
That was very thoughtful, thank you.
yeah, that's gonna be nice. If anyone wants a little light reading, we'll always be open to comments on people's opinions on that, but yeah, we're real excited about that. And then water and wastewater, where's that one?
There was 3 of those, and
Is that here?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so we received 3 of these, so I imagine you added those?
yes, sir.
Okay. So this is basically the impact fee studies. So we want, as everyone knows, it's kind of been a big talking point for a little while here, and so our intention is to hire one of these consultants to help us through that whole process, and we want to get it going as soon as possible. So our plan is to hire the consultant for the impact fee and the master plan at the November 6th meeting. So again, if anyone has any comments on that, you're more welcome to take a look from the website, or if you want to come look at them after the meeting, you can grab a copy and give us your thoughts. All right, moving down the list. First action item is annexation agreement for Palisades Investment. This would be, to put it on the table, basically. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I move to make a motion to lay on the table the annexation agreement between the town of Alpine and Palisades Investments LLC while awaiting legal, and I would add, an accounting review.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded, discussion. I'll start off on this. We have been working on this, as many of you know, for a long period of time. And Mr. Sanderson, we have put a lot on his table with everything going on. So we're looking for him to give us his review of the documents. I mean, they go back 6 years. We need a developer agreement, which has not been completed yet. So there's a lot of due diligence still to happen, so we thought it was best to table it for, I would say it's going to be on the table at least 1 month at this point. That would be my recommendation. And the fact that Mr. Sanderson isn't here tonight, I think kind of hurts our possibility of having an actual third reading, so. Any other discussion?
I think it's a pretty layered and nuanced developer agreement. There's a lot of amendments. This credit structure is very new to Alpine, credit in exchange for the laying of infrastructure to this extent. So I think for me, I really want to understand the full picture of what is the financial responsibility of the town. What type of infrastructure do we yet need to put in? It's also interesting because at the time that this was drafted, our public works director was not involved, either as a source or secondary through engineering. So I've had some discussions with him as well, and he will have some questions moving forward. So really, we just want to make sure that we are providing the public with the due diligence that's needed when a document like this is so complex. And I think this will give us some time to review on the account side as well. We want to make sure we're really dialing in on the credits and what does that mean? And what type of revenue are we expecting in the future? So that's my 2 cents.
Any other comments?
No, we need Jim to review it.
I'm sorry?
Say we need Jim to finish reviewing
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
For sure. Any other comments?
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor of said motion to table the annexation agreement, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes. Now we'll move on to the third reading of the Alpine Lakes annexation. Yeah, so that first one was just for the agreement. Yep.
I move to make a motion to lay on the table ordinance number 2024-008, Alpine Lakes annexation, while awaiting legal and accounting review.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Discussion. Any other comments on this? I think we handled it on the first one. Is there anything anyone would like to add? Seeing no comment, all those in favor of laying on the table ordinance number 2024-008, Alpine Lakes annexation while awaiting legal and accounting review, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Gosh, Frank.
Mr. Mayor, I
Yes.
just realized that I think we have the next item incorrectly stated.
For the land use and development code?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm guessing it was copied and pasted in
What's the problem?
the ordinance for the first reading.
008 should be
Yeah, I think-
009.
Yeah, I think, I just want to
Oh,
find
I
it.
realize. Okay.
Yeah. I want to find the actual ordinance. Can you pull up the actual ordinance? Yeah, it's 009. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so it's just a clerical error.
It's a,
on this.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
typo on here.
So we need to make sure that the ordinance or the motion says 009. All right. I would entertain a motion for ordinance number 2024-009, Land Use Development Code.
Go ahead, Frank.
I make a motion to approve on first reading of ordinance number 2024-009, the Land Use Development Code.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded, discussion. So, Councilman Larson, you were not here for our last discussion, but were you able to
View it online.
view it? Okay. Do you feel comfortable with everything that we discussed?
I had a couple of questions that the public's reached out to me. If Mo or Sue or Dan can talk about setbacks, as far as the concern is no parking in setbacks. Can you just give the thought behind that?
I've brought up the I can make it a little bit bigger if we have to, too.
He sat in the back because he thought we wouldn't see him.
Thank you, Mr. Larson.
I gave the option out there.
Dan Scale, Planning and Zoning. So it's a yes and no. When we're going into commercial development and you're using your setbacks at parking, that's not the intended use for that. If you're using it for an R1 designation, your driveway, anybody else's driveway, we're not concerned about that. That's your easement to get in. If the town felt like they wanted to make parking an easement for anything commercial, R2 and above, we could do that. But that's not the intended use. Because we're growing and we're moving into utilizing green space, snow storage, setbacks are, we can use setbacks for snow storage. When you have irregular lots, and if you're maximizing the amount of impervious, or I should say, we haven't talked about that yet, but square footage that you're using, sometimes you have to, make some allowances. We're trying to make sure that the town recognizes that a setback is an important piece, because in setbacks, there are a lot of easements. Power, sewer, water. We're not gonna rip up parking if we have to go through and dig up the sewer line. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Anybody have any other questions? Because I'm here.
Yep.
Well, I'll follow up with another, let's see. I could not,
I could actually look it up if you knew the page, too.
yeah, I've got the page 49, or excuse me, not 49.
Read it to me.
56, this is concerning landscaping.
Yes.
I do not know, I haven't checked back to see if it concerns R1, but it definitely concerns R2 and MRC, so I'll just go to 56.
I think it's across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We did it everywhere.
And then,
And we chose 10%
okay, so,
as just, it's the smallest increment.
yeah.
I mean, we could have gone 20, we could,
Well, it's not so much the percentage, and then this is just my own concern, because I have neighbors who have landscaping, specifically xeriscaping with rock.
it's,
Well, it doesn't say that here, though. So it says a minimum of 10% of each residential site will be landscaped and maintained with grasses, shrubs, and/or
Right.
trees to increase compatibility with the adjoining land uses, increase the attractiveness of the site, and enhance the general aesthetics of the community. This requirement may be made within setbacks areas and/or designated easements. So it does not include rock.
correct. So,
We had a lengthy discussion regarding
we had a lot,
Euroscape.
xeriscape.
there was a lot,
Yeah,
and.
and we actually,
Go ahead, Meg.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we might consider changing the verbiage on that to include
Correct. I
xeriscaping.
mean, our attempt was to beautify and to make the community at least more tree abundant and grass abundant. If we go to just doing rock, if we allow that, okay, that is the cheapest landscaping you could ever have. You will never see a blade of grass in this town ever again.
The environmentalists might like that.
But you won't see it, because the way this community works, and I love this community, trust me. I came from Jackson down to here because I like what it stands for. I can do what I want, right?
But not according to this.
No, but if we allow rockscaping as a whole, that's all you're ever gonna see.
I doubt it. I
No,
mean, there's people who love
But that's
grass.
the law, and everybody argues the law.
Yeah.
And if it's in there, we'll be sitting at this table on our Tuesday nights talking about, I want to do just rocks. So that was our attempt to help beautify Alpine. But It's up to you guys.
Right.
You guys get to choose. I'm just saying how our discussions went,
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it.
okay? Anything else? Because I'm
Oh,
here for you.
yeah, construct page 42, for construction hours.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, gosh.
Change on this one.
We had a
Yeah.
long, that was about 20 minutes plus. Yes. That was on our end. Yes, correct.
I think our desire was to, and Jim brought some words into it in our discussion. What's a nuisance?
So my question is just the thought process behind weekdays 7 to 7 versus weekends 8 to 6, when, for the homeowner, Or
So
is it-
let's say you come home
yeah,
and you love to do sheet metal work. You're working on your hot rod in your garage, and you are in a place when you are in it.
banging it.
You're banging
I'm
it.
banging it.
And your neighbor, who has to get up at 5 in the morning, is listening to you at 1 in the morning.
Well, no, so my
this is part
question
of our
being more of
discussion.
the weekend,
Sure.
why is the weekend cut off
Because,
earlier than the weekday cut off? Because that's where I kind of like, shouldn't it be the other way around?
so we're giving you a benefit. You come home from work, we want you to do stuff for you, right? If you're going to come home on the weekend, everybody here is allowed a little joy and a little peace, right? That's what this place is. Now, if you're outside tuning your 500 at
Wrap
1
it
in the
up.
morning, and this, I think that the noise ordinance needs a longer discussion, because how do you, I mean, we don't really have any rules as to how you hold somebody accountable for it. We're just making it out there to say, hey, you
So-
can't make that noise.
Dan, under your example of working on the hot rod, that wouldn't be necessarily under construction activities, right?
Well, working on a hot rod, correct.
Okay,
You're 100%.
so,
And it could be, we can work this language out. Jim, really needed to have some say into how we manage that. We're just saying, if I had 2 houses next to me when I was building my house, they would not have been happy with me. Because it was midnight, 1 in the morning,
yeah,
because I was going. Now, I can't, am I breaking my own rule? Of course I did. But I kind of took liberties because nobody lived next to me. But if somebody was next to you and they were beating on their fence, or your kids are crying and you can't get to sleep and the kids aren't, it was just like, I hear about it all the time. So we thought it would be important to just bring the language in. And since you guys were talking about a noise ordinance, we said, well, you can't really have a noise ordinance without looking at construction. That was it. And we're open to more discussion with it.
Councilman Larson, do you have a suggestion on how to change that?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the 1 in the morning, because I 100% agree with you, nobody wants to hear anything at 1 in the morning. Well, nobody our age wants to hear anything at 1 o'clock in the morning. But the 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., specifically from, we have this as May through November. The thing that just comes to my mind is June, the sun doesn't set until 9:30, 10. You get a deck permit, you get a fence permit, you have a weekend to put it up. Give you a couple extra hours to put it up.
And I think that the language also says after 3 days.
Right, yeah, or no more than
So
3 days.
we were trying to, that was some of our discussion. Mo and Suk and both attest to it. It was a long, lengthy discussion just for us. And
Yes.
then when we went to, our workshop, it was really, well, how far do we take it before it becomes a nuisance? And then,
So in any other town of, Sioux Columbus Planning and Zoning, any other town I've ever lived in, the weekends tend to be shorter because that's when people are at home chilling out. They've had a rough 5 days at work, for the most part, Monday through Friday. And, that's when I think everybody deserves the right to peaceful and quiet. It's the right to quiet enjoyment, which I know is a hot button around the country because this is evident everywhere. Yes, it's the weekend and people want to work, but there are a lot of people that want to rest. And so where's the balance? And any town I've ever lived in 2 different states, the weekends are always less in terms of what you can do in terms of construction, to be respectful of your neighbors that are at home resting. The weekend, Sunday is a day of rest. So yeah, again, we try to balance it out, but the right to quiet enjoyment is something that's always paramount in my mind. I had neighbors in their garage sawing wood at midnight, having no clue that it was bothering anyone at a residence previously. And people just get in the zone, like Dan just said. And I think you have to have some kind of boundary there. And that's what we're trying to balance out.
Thank you. Looks like we did strike, though, the 3 days.
Yeah, also, I think it should say construction activities to
Yeah.
start that sentence. Maybe.
It does.
I don't,
But it's under construction activities.
Yeah.
activities, yeah, I mean, it
And this
does-
is-
it says it
Construction
was
activities.
stricken, it said any activities that occur for 3 consecutive days.
Oh, I see what
So-
you're saying, construction.
And here's where we had the huge discussions as well. Like the rest of us, we come home from work 5 days a week, and yes, everybody wants to have quiet time, but, the rest of us don't always get that luxury of trying to get stuff done, want to get it done so we can enjoy the weekend. So we're going to work until it's dark. And so the construction could be anywhere from somebody grading out their driveway and rolling it out because, hey, they've got the equipment there. It's going to use it while it's there. So these were a part of the many discussions. So this could be just a start to have a good conversation so we can get the meat of it and try to get it solidified to what we can actually make work. I was definitely had a hard time with this a lot, and there was a lot of different discussions just for that reason. So any other suggestions, how we can make this work for everybody, make everybody happy? We're all about. It's just, as Ms. Sue said, it's a great idea to at least try to get something on the books so we can try to get some stuff figured out. And let's figure it out and see what we can do together.
Well, and I almost feel like the community, whatever we end up implementing, because it's not going to be perfect for everybody
No.
and everybody's situation, but I think this can be a community-driven decision. where
Yeah.
We put something into place and we see how the community reacts to that. How many complaints do we get? How many times do you get somebody emailing you on planning and zoning saying, this is exactly not what I want, you're not representing me? So I think it's a really good
Well, and here's the
start.
thing, folks, we're all grown-ups. If we're gonna work on our, if we're gonna work on our house and whatnot, on the weekends, when I was doing my fence, I knocked on my neighbors, like, hey, man, I'm gonna
Yes.
work on my fence, just so you're aware.
You
We
were
just have to let our neighbors know,
polite.
we have to be good stewards of our community so that we can all work together. If you're gonna be a butthead and hammer in your garage until 9 or till midnight and disturb your neighbor, that's completely disrespectful and that's unacceptable. So we just have to be grown-ups.
No, you're right. We can foster a much more community spirit.
Whoa, good word
I
usage,
I don't know if
sis.
we can
with
put,
that.
we all need to be grown-ups in the land use development.
Butthead is.
There has to be some definition, honestly. And I love like seeing the single family homes go up around this neighborhood, and I'm right behind here. And I can tell you this summer, as happy as I am for certain people building their homes, it's like 11 o'clock and you're still like, and I'm in bed and I can hear it. It's like amplified. And it's like, ah. So, there has to be boundaries.
I think,
I agree.
I think we can work with this, but I don't know why I'm hung up on this one line, but right now it reads, activities may be subject to violations. So I don't know how we change it. I think we could probably do something with that on second reading. Do you have a suggestion?
Well, my suggestion would just be for asking Jim of his language.
Yeah. Yeah, please, come on up. Tell us your name.
Justin Scott, Alpine resident. I'm not sure if Sunrock is in the town of Alpine. Okay, so they're in complete violation of the 7 a.m. start
They're not
time.
They're not in the town of Alpine.
Right, but like they start at 6:30, they get the sirens going off. I'm more concerned like with the morning at night, you know, in the wintertime, people's doors are closed at, like you're shut down at 5 p.m. So to like move the wintertime, like recommendation to 5 p.m., most people, their windows are shut in the wintertime anyway. So why would you have someone stop construction at 5 p.m. when most people's windows and doors are shut? So I think, you know, you guys got to be a little bit, have some leeway on this. Granted, Sunrock isn't in the town, but that's what I'd be more concerned with as opposed to morning activities as opposed to PM activities, in my opinion. So, thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Justin. I didn't know we were going to get Sunrock in the discussion, but I think they actually have their permit restricts their hours of operation, but that's something we can check on. If we could find their permits, we would look at that, but.
Josh Wood. I live here in Alpine. I'm currently building a house here in Alpine. I think there's a little bit of myopic thinking with this, a little bit. Everybody's house made noise when it was getting built. Everybody's. So to say, you know, for instance, Dan, you made the comment, you're working till midnight, but now that you're done, it's not okay for other people to make noise. Like, it's just a little nearsighted or short-sighted, I guess, I feel like. And to me, 5 o'clock in the wintertime, if there's daylight outside, I'm pounding away. That's way too early. That's not reasonable at all. I mean, if Jenkins is still open and I can go buy a piece of lumber, why can't I install it? Yeah. So I understand and I agree. Like, I try to be considerate when I'm building. I definitely try to. In the mornings, I try not to plug in my compressor right at 7. I try to do things that are kind of quiet until like 8 or 9 on the weekends. I try to make sure that I'm kind of reining in it at night as well, because you do need to be respectful of your neighbors. But again, like, I think good neighbors should be able to talk to each other too, right? And so if someone had a kid and they came over and said, you know, hey, like at 4 o'clock my kid takes a nap every day, is there any way that you could, you know, give me an hour? I would try to make some sort of concession towards that person, because I want to be a good neighbor too. So is it better to have more rules, or is it better to potentially try to just get people to communicate with each other, or try to find some sort of a balance between the two, I guess? So that's just my...
Thanks for your comments. That is always tough. It's something we struggle with, because if we don't really have a great way to enforce it, then does it even need to be out there? So I think this is a great discussion, and I think we can maybe hammer out some of these details for the next reading.
One more comment.
Yes. If you're gonna, yeah.
Wrap it up.
I'm trying.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Name is Brett Bennett, Alpine resident, business owner. I just wanted to make sure I heard the discussion on parking and the setbacks, and I do see that as a very significant change kind of across the board to what's been done over the years in this town. Do you have a few notes?
Hey, Brett.
Yes.
Can you just aim that word?
There you go.
don't
Certainly.
have to
A little better?
Do it, but just,
The 15
the
people
the
that
mic,
want
the
to.
Okay.
mic has to pick it up.
So, did you already read the new setback definition?
What page was that?
Here, I'll read it. So it says, the area is measured from the property line of the structure within which building is prohibited, but which may include driveway areas as designated. And then it says in parentheses, the distance a building or impervious surface must be from all of the boundary lines. I guess the point I'm trying to make is building setbacks and parking setbacks should be two different things. The reason for buildings and structures and massing is a totally different purpose than, say, a vehicle or curb or asphalt or concrete. So my take is that we have a historical precedent set. I have some GIS imagery for you, and that we should pause on that section and consider the impacts to projects.
I might be able to lend a little bit of insight to this because my house was one of the reasons why they wanted to do this. My neighbor and I didn't do it, but whoever built my house put the driveway right up to the property line, and so did my neighbor. So we have asphalt connected for this whole area. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dan. This is part of the reason why they wanted to do it. So yes, one of, but if you had, whatever the side setback is, say 10, 15 feet, whatever it is in your particular,
Correct.
then the parking or the driveway would be set back from that amount. So you had maybe some green space or something between the property lines. That was one of the reasons why. So maybe you have some insight on that.
Certainly, and I can see that point entirely. I think the intent is to not have impervious surface parking drives to the lot line. And so my thought is to consider a different parking or impervious surface setback, whatever it would be called. Personally, I've seen HOAs group parking and building setbacks into the same language, but not necessarily in towns. I think it's generally an independent item that's discussed. I think the reason I brought these images, this is just Lincoln County GIS. I just wanted to.
Do you know what page that was on? Brett, do you?
Which portion?
The
49, 54,
It's all through the zone.
it's all through the, yeah.
Let's see.
Do you have a specific example you wanted to show us?
Sure. Okay, so, for example, the building we're standing in now, the pervious surface goes right up to the lot line. You can pick out other public structures like the fire department, the library, the CDC, the civic center, and so on. So there's plenty of examples. The point is that I think we should have a separate number to address the concern, which is right to the lot line. So could it be half the setback or some other portion of it?
I think commercial's a little tough too because they're able to build right up, in some cases, right up to the lot. It's the lot
Yes,
line itself.
commercial to commercial would be 0 on the sides, correct?
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how it's written now. So that kind of speaks for itself. So commercial can go 0, but when you get into MRC, you have a 15-foot setback. And my take is they should be separate. I think it's too restrictive to grab the building setbacks for parking all the way down. Are we talking all the way down to R1 or planning and zoning?
R1 was not included.
Okay.
Dan, when is the next time that planning and zoning is going to be discussing the land use development codes? Okay.
Email Christine, put it on the docket. Absolutely. We're all open for ideas.
Weekly? Yeah.
So our next meeting's on the 22nd of October. And this discussion went around a lot. And I appreciate what Brett's bringing. This is stuff that was, what he's talking about right now is stuff that was done in the 20 years ago,
Right.
right? We're talking about new.
Construction.
This is the stuff that's coming up. We're not going to force anybody to go back and redo their setbacks. We're talking about, in planning and zoning, we've talked about an entire different Main Street zoning complex, which is going to change the look of this entire Main Street, running all the way from as you enter it, all the way to when you come in from Idaho.
Right.
So you're a great asset, and having discussions with you, sitting at planning and council, is paramount. But when we're looking forward to how we discuss in planning and zoning about having a Main Street zoning and what it would look like, what are we going to do? We've talked about asking the highway to broaden it so we could have on-street parking that was diagonal. I mean, we're talking about stuff, I mean, this is paramount to one piece, and that's the project that we were bringing up at Planning and Zoning now, but we're looking at what it looks like 20 years in the
Right.
future. We can't be held to accountability to what happened 20 years ago because nobody really cared what was going on here then. Nobody honored the land use development code then. We've gone back in every note for the last 5 years that we find. Nobody honored anything.
I don't think
We've
they
read
had
it.
the land use development code back then either.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and so it's hard for us, you know, we're looking at, what do you want? There is, because of the lack of a master plan, we don't have anything to fall back on. It's Mo, Sue, and I.
Right,
What do we want it to look like?
right.
Well, it is a good point because you're talking about, changing some zoning or whatever, and we're going to handle that during the master planning process. And so that will kind of be the guiding document for a lot of these discussions going forward. I really appreciate Brett bringing it up, and I think I would encourage you to maybe go to planning
to
and
the
zoning with a
meeting.
couple examples of how, like, something that you see currently, that if it changed to this, how it would affect it. That'd be helpful for me especially. So if that's something you're willing, if you're not able to go to planning and zoning as well, maybe you could bring it to us.
And maybe you'd like to be on planning and zoning, because we're gonna lose a member here in a couple months.
Or email it to Chris.
Yes, with your ideas, if you can't make the meeting, we'd love to see
Oh,
that.
these are valuable. I mean, it's,
Yes.
the discussion is great, and I don't wanna interrupt all the stuff you guys gotta do, so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to my seat.
Thank you, Dan.
Did you have anything else, Brett?
Yep, so
Okay.
the point is that I think looping parking setbacks into building setbacks would be problematic, so I'll follow up with Christine
Okay.
and planning and zoning on that separately.
And then just so you know, your comments, of course, will go through planning and zoning, and then we are intensely involved with this process as it evolves, so.
Okay,
Did you stick
Your
around for
comments will
the
be taken
2-hour
into
meeting
account.
we had discussing every one of these? Did you? Oh, it's riveting. You guys should go YouTube it because it's phenomenal.
okay.
It's more riveting watching it on.
Well,
I'm sure
thank you very much.
it's way better.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Brett.
so much.
Any other specific questions?
Is this document with the proposed updates available on the website?
Like this with the changes that,
Yeah,
yeah, it is, right?
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
So the original changes are on there, and then any changes that she made after the workshop should be in green.
Okay. I just want to encourage everybody here and everybody watching to go to that document, read it, look at it, check it out, and come to the planning and zoning meeting with your comments. Because I am hearing that there's a lot of talk around town about it, but people need to come to the meetings and they need to bring up their points. Because if you don't, then nobody's going to know what your concerns are. And we love seeing people at our meetings.
Yeah.
When we had that workshop with planning and zoning a few weeks ago, two people attended.
Yes.
2 people stayed after the previous meeting and for the second meeting, and lots of really important stuff was discussed and nobody was there to hear it. So please come to our meetings.
Yes.
Thank you.
They're on the website. They're all on the website on the calendar. There's agendas. It's all there.
You'll find all of the packets, everything
Yeah.
you receive.
And so, just for those of you here and those of you at home, when we redid the website, if you go to our website at alpinewy.gov, then there is a government tab across the top. If you go to that tab, it will give you agendas and meetings. If you go to that, it shows you, and you can choose whether you want to look at planning or zoning, if you want to look at travel and tourism, if you want to look at town council. For all town council meetings, every document that we bring to this meeting is uploaded. And so all these pages, and then all those pages also, because I don't have them in this packet, are attached to that. So if you go to
Right here.
agendas and minutes, and then you can sort, and you can see You can sort it by date, you can look at our old meetings, you can look at the upcoming meetings, you can look at what our future meetings are. And so the agendas are published the Thursday before the meeting, both for planning and zoning and for our meeting. And so all that's on there. And so I recommend I like using the HTML version of the packet when you go into the meeting, because rather than looking at 200 continuous pages, it allows you to click on the link. So,
Okay, let's keep moving forward. We got a bunch of other things to talk about. Is there any other comments regarding land use development code? It seems like we're going to be hammering out a few more things. And we'll do that over the coming weeks. And by I would say the 19th of November will be our second reading on this, correct? Okay. Any other further discussion? All those in favor of ordinance number 2024-009, land use development code on first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's 5-0. Motion passes. Frank. Okay, next one is Mega Well tie-in. I'd entertain a motion to get it on the table.
Make a motion to authorize Jorgensen to proceed with design, estimated cost $56,000 for the Mega Well tie-in.
Thank you. Thank you
Second.
for clarifying that. All right, so this is specifically regarding a lot of the annexation and building moratorium discussions. It has really become apparent that we need the Mega Well, which is going to service around 2,000 gallons a minute to that side of town. Once we tie it in, it will be able to be useful throughout the entire community. We have 3 wells up on this side of town that service, most of the town, everyone that's hooked up right now. And in the middle of the summer, they run 24/7. So if we had electrical problem, lost power, a pump broke, a part, something happened, then we would probably be in a conservation mode. I don't know if that.
Which we were in July of 2023 when a pump went down.
Yeah. We were in conservation mode?
Well, yeah, that was a memo from Craig.
Oh,
He asked everybody to conserve water.
okay. But anyways, it's very important. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the SLIB board, which is State Lands and Investment Board, to ask for, what is it? In the range of $1.2 million to tie it in.
it depends on what the actual scope of the project ends up,
Right.
but
Right.
up to 1.4.
Right. So the $56,000 would be to pay Jorgensen Engineering to design the tie-in and what needs to happen. So then we have a shovel-ready project that we can go to the SLIB board with, because they're asking for shovel-ready projects, and this is like right up their alley, exactly what they're looking for. The SLIB board is the 5 electeds for the state of Wyoming, including the governor, the treasurer, the secretary of state, the secretary of education, and the state auditor. So those 5 people have millions of dollars that they end up distributing to people throughout the state, and this is exactly the project the type of project that they're looking for. And if we can get them to pay for a majority of it, then that's exactly what we need to do. So that's kind of the background on this.
Did we
Any other
have
comments?
were we given an answer by Jorgensen? I think they were gonna dive into this and see if there was any retroactive reimbursement that could happen for things
don't
like
think
this, like
there's.
design cost.
I don't think you can.
Not with any of the funding. You have to have a signed grant agreement
Okay,
before starting the project to get reimbursed.
okay.
Yeah, so anyways, this is basically a sunk cost, probably not going to be reimbursed, but it's vital to the success of the town going forward. So any questions? Applications are due for SLID November 1st?
So, and I apologize, I don't think you and I talked after our meeting. There has to be we don't have the type of businesses to be appropriate for that project, for that application.
What do you mean, businesses?
So we need, it's not commercial, it needs to be industrial.
You're saying we can't go to the slip board?
No.
Who are we going to then?
So we're going to go to the ARPA money is the next one, which is the 60/40.
Through slips?
Again, yes, sir. Yes,
In
sir.
February?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one that we were going for was a 90-10 match.
But they want to see industrial growth. And that's not something that I think this
You
is
mean
going
like
to,
the pretreatment plant?
or like Melvin.
Can we go back to them and get more money on that one?
So, yeah,
It's shovel ready.
yeah,
All right, so it sounds like it's 60-40 split.
yeah. But however, as we discussed, that's one of the reasons we're doing the impact fee study, because the remaining balance that isn't paid will likely be eligible for that.
That's exactly right. So what we would do for the impact study, or for the impact fees, is to be legitimate, this is what our attorney has told us, that you need to assign specifically, any money that's brought in is going for a specific project. So this is the perfect, like, we're paying for our matching portion, impact fees will pay to get the mega well hooked up to our system. So it really makes sense to do that. And then the next major project will come up 5 years down the road. We'll say we need to start putting the money away for expansion of the sewer, whatever it is. Future administrations will have the ability to assign those dollars
divert those funds. Right.
to specific projects.
Okay.
It needs to be project specific. So, any questions? Any comments from the gallery? Yes, please. Do you mind coming up to the microphone? Sure. Thank you.
Brent Jacobs, Alpine resident. I just had a question in terms of the projections of the volume increase of this quote mega well. Do you have any idea?
The
Projections of the how the volume will actually increase through the town with this mega well?
well, the engineering firm has done those projections. I can't remember off the top of my head how much more capacity it gives us, but it's really it's kind of like a stopgap, because really what we need is better tanks up on the hill.
Is there any storage now?
Yes.
Okay. What's the amount of the storage?
Well, one of them you can only fill to half because of elevation. So basically,
We've got
Are
under a
you-
million,
right,
under a million.
And the
gallons.
tanks are gravity fed?
yes.
Do you have an engineering background?
No, I have an agricultural background.
Yeah.
Jorgensen.
Okay, so there's 2 wells now,
We have three
Three.
wells.
3 wells now, and those are capped.
Well, I should clarify. We have
Okay.
more wells in the town of Alpine system. Those are the 3 main sources of water to the town of Alpine currently hooked up to our system.
Okay,
And
and then we're doing a mega well.
The mega well will really supply the other side, over the north side of the reservoir, all of the, there's a few subdivisions that are currently hooked up to it. And then tying that into our water system gives us the stopgap measure that we need, so we don't run out of water.
Okay, but there has been no projections in terms of how much water we need versus the amount of growth?
There have been will serve. They'll look at everything that's been annexed and will serve. So any of our outstanding responsibilities, Jorgensen has quantified all of that, and they're telling us what we need to do to continue to not only service the town, but to service any other projects that are being brought in. And we have some will serves that they never were given timelines, so they still haven't started building, and there's some of them are multiple years old. So we're trying to take into account what we've already promised them as well.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
engineers
Does that
would
answer your
love
question?
to give you that information. We can give you all of that information.
That's enough for now.
Okay.
But those documents are bound inside, yeah.
And
So
it-
you can go read them.
They were
And
at our,
if you watch the meeting that we had last Wednesday,
Yes.
the engineer goes through it all. So,
And those documents are on the agenda for the last meeting.
So it'll have the projection.
Yep, you'll go and be able to find all that.
But that's a great question.
We hope it gives us years and years of time. And then we'll tackle the next major hurdle, which is probably storage.
Yes.
And hopefully the water project will be incorporated into the master plan.
Absolutely.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be giving us a GIS layout. That's something the town that has never had before. So we're gonna be able to see the actual location of every single line and then what's being put into place. And that we can check flow rates and usage.
Thank you for your question. Any other comments?
Just to clarify, we do need this step of design before moving forward.
We need it soon. We need it, the application is still November 1st, correct? Or has it changed?
The deadline for
No, it's
ARPA?
in February. The application is February
Okay,
now, which is an April award.
okay.
We absolutely do not need it to apply. We can apply in the next round for just design if you want. But then that means that we design it,
Right,
Yeah, it'll be years.
and
before
then
it-
we have to wait until the next, after it's designed, and then do it. One of the things that the consultant did say in our impact fee meeting is that the design for this can be attributed to impact fees.
okay.
I think that was.
I think current upgrades, in-process upgrades for increased capacity were listed. Okay,
So that could be our reimbursement, maybe the impact fees?
So, yeah, design of the interconnection is part of the project.
Well, that could be our first.
And so they
one.
don't have the same, like, grant agreement needs to be signed restrictions.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Wealth of knowledge, we should have talked. Who's got?
I
time?
Thank you,
apologize.
Monica.
You were, it was late in the afternoon, you were
That's
already
okay.
gone, and then we had off yesterday. So
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Seeing no further comments, all those in favor of a motion to authorize Jorgensen to proceed with design of the mega well with an estimated cost of $56,000, say aye.
aye.
Aye, opposed? None, motion carries. Okay, let's talk about our dump truck bids. Let's see, seeking motion, highest bidder. Would someone like to make a motion? I would recommend we take the highest bidder, which is, it's this one, isn't it? No, 16,000,
Yeah, I think it was that one.
or is it? Yep, it says 16,000.
Okay.
It's this one. Would you
16,000.
be interested in taking that up?
Sure. I make a motion to accept the bid from 4W LLC for the purchase of the 7,500 single axle dump truck in the amount of $16,000 and authorize the clerk's office to execute all documentation to complete the sale.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Any discussion? We should have put in there, they have to keep calling it Winnie. That's like essential.
It'll always be Winnie to
It'd
us.
always be Winnie to us, for sure. Any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of said motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None, motion carries. Winnie is sold. Okay, next is the radio read meter project. The bid award. I would entertain a motion to get this on the table.
I move to make a motion to approve the recommendation from Jorgensen awarding the provision of meter materials to Core in Maine for the bid amount of $134,214.02 and authorizing Mayor Green to execute all contact documents.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Any discussion?
This was just for everybody's information, wasn't this the only bid that we received? And it came in like right where we wanted
Yep.
it, so
Yes.
we're happy with it.
Yeah, it came in right where we needed it to come. This is,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, a little under.
That's what I remember.
yeah, I think we needed it to be under 135. This is for our radio meter reads for the town of Alpine. We got a grant last year through SLIB to pay for 60/40, if I'm not mistaken, Madam Clerk, yeah, 60/40 to pay for a majority of, to get everyone radio reads for the water meter system. And right now, what we do is once a year, our guys drive around. You've probably seen them at your house. They're pulling up the meter, reading it, coming back, and then you get billed based on that usage for the next year. So going forward, you will be billed on a monthly basis for your usage. This really helps us with finding cracks in the system, leaks, things of that nature, because if someone, for example, said, I never used that amount of water, we can, say, well, it's right here, it's consistent, and, it's real easy to quantify it at that point. So I can't remember the total grant. Was it $750,000 is what?
The town has secured funding for this project,
Yeah.
including an ARPA grant.
770.
Right.
771,000. So, yeah.
That was convenient.
Timing is perfect. The other thing is, the commitment from the town is around $500,000, and they do allow us, as part of our match, to use our employees,
Yes.
staff, to change out the meters. Typically, this process would be bid out, and we'd hire a company to go and do that process, pulling out all the meters and putting in the new ones. But our town staff can do that, so they allow it, and that's gonna save us a lot of money. So,
Yes.
anyways, this is the first step. Any questions, comments?
No.
Any questions from the audience? Has anyone been commenting on the, okay. Just kidding.
When was this project started? What was the initial?
Well, our plan is, as soon as this is awarded, we were gonna try to get some of them done this fall, but we're not gonna do that anymore, are we? Monica?
You'd have to ask Craig, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna wait till the spring to start this, but it's, we've been working with Core and Main for a long time, so, they already have the meters like in-house, but I think it's best just to wait till the spring.
Oh, I more meant, when did we start the discussion as a town council? Was it 2021?
Oh, yeah, this goes way back.
Yeah, no, this goes back previous administration.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
21.
Yeah, there had been a previous grant application that they didn't get, and then I did another one after becoming clerk.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
I'd say
been going back a long time.
2023,
Okay.
again, second time.
Okay. Thank you, Monica.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing no further comment, all those in favor of said motion awarding the bid to Core and Main, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Frank? All right. Next is wastewater capacity fee impact study bid award. We're looking to move this, basically you had it on the agenda for tonight or something? Is that
Correct, it was advertised to be awarded tonight
Okay.
originally.
So this is basically just to move it to the meeting on the 6th.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Motion to postpone the motion to award the bid for the water and wastewater capacity fee impact fee study at the November 6th, 2024 special meeting.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Next is basically the same thing on the master plan.
Make a motion to postpone the motion to award the bid for the comprehensive master plan at the November 6th meeting, 2024 special meeting.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of said motion, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. All right, next. Resolution number 2024-003. A resolution to switch from a public funds checking account to a commercial checking account and open a repurchase account with the First Bank of Wyoming.
Make a motion for Resolution 2024-034, a resolution to switch from a public funds checking account to a commercial checking account and open a repurchase account with First Bank of Wyoming.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Seconded by Councilperson Burchard. I think she got on first. Okay. Madam Treasurer, do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
So we have been working sometime with First Bank. That's where our operating account, our joint operating account between single source funded all funds. And so clearly when you keep that kind of balance, the rates are a concern. They had given us an increased rate about a year ago. There's been some changes, though, within their structure and the way they structure their accounts. And so they want to be able to keep giving us an increased rate. But the way to do that and maintain that is by shifting the type of accounts. And so the repurchase account is basically a sweep account. All but $350,000 will be swept into an investment every night to make sure that we can continue to maintain an interest rate. They were giving us 5% due to the interest rate climate that was going on in the country. It was positive, not so positive for borrowers, but positive for savers. However, the Fed reduced rates, and so they are going to give us a 4.25 moving forward.
That's wonderful.
So we just need to, it won't change our bank account number. We don't have to buy new checks. It's just, we have to sign new bank agreements.
Okay.
So,
Any questions, comments?
That's a really good rate.
Yes.
Coming from the banker on the board?
Yes.
well, and I did provide them with the Wyoming class rates to be able to substantiate that rate.
Thank you, Monica.
Sounds good. All those in favor of resolution number 2024-034, a resolution to switch from public funds checking account to a commercial checking account and an open and repurchase account with First Bank of Wyoming, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Resolution carries. All right.
I'm going to recommend that we leave that on the table due to we had it to pull back off with the language changes. I think perhaps we could leave it on the table and then, because clearly we're going to tweak that some more.
Yes. Because we
But it's up
use
to you.
some of the same language from the
Yeah.
land use development.
Yeah, we match language
Yeah.
in the ordinance, so, yep.
And if you're not happy doing it once, do it twice. That's government for you. Yeah, I think that's good. Let's just leave it on the table, and it's second reading, so we'll try to get everything lined there. If everyone's happy with that, we'll move right into public comment. This is where we open it up to anyone that stayed to the end and would like to make a comment of any sort.
My turn?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, so I'd like to talk about the Alpine Lakes annexation. And
Introduce yourself.
my name is Dee Conger. I think most of you know me as a fighter pilot, but I do have a dark side that not many people know about. My first job out of college, I worked for Deloitte & Touche as a CPA before I went into the Air Force. And after the Air Force, I went back to graduate school, and I got a master's in industrial engineering and an MBA from Northwestern. I've ran several businesses. I have over 300 employees. I've been on a bunch of different public and private boards. So I transitioned successfully from a merchant of death to a merchant of counting beans. So I know a little bit about, how things work, although I've never served in government. My concern is, around this development that you're considering annexing. And I think the discussion tonight, you had some tangential comments about what kind of liabilities is the town going to be subject to if you approve this annexation? I know you've tabled it, but it should be tabled indefinitely until you have concrete answers. I know as an accountant, when a company commits to any kind of liability, and that's what this is, there's a liability and there's an asset side of the balance sheet when you do an annexation. The liability side is the town will be saddled with the cost of implementing this project. The asset side will be there'll be tax revenue that come in from a mill levy from this project. Well, it's very clear in my mind that no one on this council understands the liability side. We do know that the utility system is at capacity. No one said in the last meeting that this is an emergency. Well, it's an emergency. You're at 100%. You are at point where you're shutting water off if you have any kind of problem with the system. But I put my industrial engineering hat on, that's an emergency. You are at capacity. You're considering adding more demand when you don't have the capacity to serve your existing customers. So, there's so many reasons that this is problematic on the financial side. When I look at my notes right here, there was a discussion last week about what is the true cost of this annexation. There was numbers from $1.5 million to zero. So there's this giant spread of what it's going to cost to do this annexation, and nobody really understands it. So until you can say concretely from your heart, this is what it's going to cost the people of Alpine to do this annexation, you cannot approve it. You are elected as fiduciaries for the people of Alpine, not for the developers who are doing development work within Alpine. You serve at the pleasure of the people of Alpine. So your responsibility is to understand these financial impacts that you're going to commit your constituents to. So I think we need to make that clear. What studies have been done to quantify these costs? Not really aware of any studies that have been done to quantify these costs. It's like there's all kinds of hyperbole in people's opinions, but there has been no real quantification of the cost of doing this project. Highly concerning. And as I understand it, this potentially will be the largest utility hookup this town has ever undertaken as far as basically the demands are put on it. So now you have the largest project you've ever considered. You don't know how much it costs. You don't have the water or the sewer to serve it, but yet you're rushing to approve the project. It makes no sense whatsoever. The other piece too is that, from what I understand from talking to the treasurer, is that my opinion is that, or my impression is that the town is fairly maxed out on its ability to borrow. And so when you're doing an annexation like this, the cost of this project all come up front. You have to do all the administrative work, you have to do all the utilities, you have to do all this work in advance, and you have to pay for it. Then you get down the road tax revenues to pay back that, that liability. So it's like you got to show as town members how your cash flow statements, where you're going to get the cash to pay for the upfront cost, and then what's the return on investment to the community to cover those costs and potentially generate revenue for the town. No one knows the answer to that question. None of you have been able to articulate this. You cannot vote on this thing until you understand clear cut, what's my return on investment of this annexation or any annexation? And this was really the powerful argument made by the planning, is that why are we considering doing all these annexations when there's no real process in place to quantify the accounting for any of these projects? It's really kind of a ludicrous thing that's going on. This particular annexation is particularly egregious because there is a credit agreement for the utilities that was put in place many years ago, and it really, truly was a very shipshod process where a developer did some usually infrastructure. He used his own companies to do it. He produced more or less receipts written on toilet paper as backup for the cost that went into this process. This is the subject of the legal review that's right now. It's like they're talking millions of dollars of credits that you're thinking about issuing on this project for a process that kind of happened during the dark days of Alpine governments, where, when I came to this town, there was a lot of kind of whispering in the dark. There was a lot of corruption going on within, the town and developer control. And, everyone kind of dismissed that all. But truly, it's not really like it's like this criminal corruption, but definitely you have developers who were ramming things through, and nobody really stood up to them until kind of we had a change of command here, which led to, some real focus on the good of the town as opposed to the good of the developers. So this agreement has to be audited, and it has to be validated, and everyone has to get comfortable. If I'm going to give them multi-million-dollar credit, which means that's even less money I'm going to get for this annexation, I better understand for certain for my constituents that these are real value and that the investments that we are actually paying for are legitimate. So I implore you, understand those credit agreements in turn. And also, the real hook is that those credit agreements, whether you agree with them or not, they only apply if you annex.
Yes.
He can still annex that property in, or he can connect it in, he just won't get credit for this bogus agreement or partially bogus agreement that was struck years ago. So do not approve this project until you understand and can, like, from your heart of hearts, say those credits are legitimate. So, the last piece on that donated piece is that we all know that some of those utilities that were donated, I don't know if there's been any kind of review to note the adequacy or the quality of that project. And I believe it's going to be highly likely you're going to find that there were some corners that were cut, and potentially that infrastructure is not everything that it was advertised to be. So we really need to have a feasibility study, and you need to have an engineer come in and review all those things and decide not only do we want to pay for it, but this infrastructure is something that the town can really utilize, and it'll be in the benefit of the town in general and large, not just that development out there. All right, that's the first point. I have 3 points to make. The second point is the big one that's really dear to my heart, obviously, from my Merchant of Death days, is that I live on the air park and I'm an aviation buff, obviously. I've been involved with 3 airport projects. I've run a big FBO in San Diego. We've done development on that airport. I own a bunch of property on Driggs Airport. We've done development on that airport. And I was instrumental in development of another airport in South Sioux City next to my plant where we manufacture our products in South Dakota. Every one of these projects, when you're doing development next to an airport, there are certain guidelines that are prescribed for how you do development next to an airport. This particular piece of land immediately abuts an airport. So just by show of hands, how many of you on the council are familiar with AC 150, which is the FAA's guideline for property development? Anyone? Anyone ever heard of this? Well, here's the circular. This is the standard document that's published by the FAA, and I'll just leave this with you.
Thank you.
The FAA circular is a guideline that's published by the FAA that's used by all communities when they do their land development use code. If you have an airport in your community, you have to, you need to discuss, what does the FAA recommend how you do land use? There are certain things that you do when you develop around an airport. For example, you got to be out of your mind to put a school in the middle of the flight path, right? Things like this. So that's just a random example that, when you're doing land development, you need to consider the impacts of the airport. This is a public use airport. This is not a private airport. So, there are certain things that are very compatible with around airports. This particular project is, deleterious to the airport, in my opinion. But if you read the code, there are specific things that are outlined by the FAA as to types of development that can coexist well with the airport. So, you cannot approve this project to annex it until you read the FAA circular and you consider it in your decisions, and nobody has done that. So I would say any development, not just this Alpine Lakes, but anything that abuts the airport, even though it's not in your town, any town project that abuts the airport should consider that circular when you make your decision, and you should have a vote on it, and you should basically make yourself, or get a consultant to help you make that decision. The other piece about that is that you're talking about the highest appraised value property in the Star Valley is right next to this development, right? Has there been any kind of impact study to say, I'm going to build like a motorhome park right next to all this very expensive real estate, and potentially I'm going to depreciate the value of some expensive homes? No one's talking about this, and I guess there's probably not a lot of sympathy for, devaluing the value of homes of wealthy people in the airport, but you open yourself up to problems if you, whack that hornet's nest. So I think there should be a study to basically say, you have this pristine community that is very valuable. There's hundreds of millions of dollars worth of investment that's been done in that community. And now you're talking about putting a high-density development, oh, by the way, it's an airport, and there's been no discussion as to, you know, what kind of effect that will have on those property values. We talked about the utility problems, and, you know, so I won't go into that. The last issue is kind of a sticky one, but it's basically the ethical issues here. And it involves you, and we've had this discussion. So basically, when I go through, like, I've spent 5 minutes looking into these issues, and, you know, there's kind of these things that continually turn up. This is Steve Funk's project. Every time Steve Funk's name comes up, Jeremy Larson's name comes up. And I'm like, how is this council member so tied into Steve Funk's development? Well, turns out that, you know, there's some things that are highly concerning. And if you look, you know, another thing that really got me concerned about this is that we were recruited by the state of Wyoming by Mark Gordon to build our factory in Cheyenne. So I had dinner with Mark Gordon a bunch of times. And when I went out to lunch with the guy, he wouldn't even let me pay for his lunch. He's like, we have these ethical rules.
Sorry, excuse me, Dee, while you're defaming me, could you make sure you're speaking into the?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So he wouldn't let me pay for his lunch. He says, we have these guidelines of ethics that we're governed by, and he wouldn't accept the $20 gift. But in the case of this, it's like, you know, and I'm not saying you're unethical, but what I'm saying is that you've breached the standards of ethics, which is basically you voted 100% in favor of every project Steve Funk has ever produced. Your wife works for her employer. You voted for a grossly below market rent for her employer. Your charity that you are the CEO of received, by your definition, over 93% of its funding came from a fund that was inappropriately directed by Steve Funk. Steve Funk appointed you to the board of a charter school, and I'm thinking, what qualifications do you have to serve on the board of a charter school? Do you have children? I don't think so. Have you worked as an educator? No, this seems like a barista thing to me. It's like you've been appointed to this board by the developer who's trying to get you to approve project on the land. So it's clear that there's a lot of ethical questions that are going on with this. You know, and again, there was this fund that kind of brought this all up. A bunch of airport residents donated to a fund. This is what kind of it was the tip of the iceberg. The airport residents got together and they contributed $220,000 to a community fund. There was the individual airport members who contributed to the town to really, it was pitched to fund the EMS, to fund the health center, and to the library. Really, some of those things happened, but the EMS got 1/3 what they were supposed to bid. But then, you know, Jeremy's charity was the third largest recipient of these funds, which was never something, and these funds were exclusively directed by Mr. Funk, who is the developer here. So, you know, it quacks like a duck. I don't think it's a swan, you know? So my ask of this right now is, Jeremy, is that you recuse yourself from any of these votes because you are clearly conflicted. Whether it's unethical what you've done or not, you are clearly conflicted. And, you know, the evidence is just, it's so egregious as far as your involvement with these things that, you know, you cannot participate in the discussions or the vote on any project that Mr. Funk has developed with. So with that, I'll rest my case.
Thank you, Dee. On behalf, I've discussed this with council. On behalf of council, it says you're welcome to file a complaint with Spencer Allred at the county. Other than that, that's your choice. And I would hope, I still see you have not sent on my email proving everything that is sent or that we've done is above board to your air park board and members. I'm still waiting for that to filter through. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
My name is Shay Scafidi. It's like a broken record. I've lived here 20 years, both incorporated Alpine and unincorporated Alpine. I'm running for town council. I've been on the Town of Alpine's Parks and Rec, volunteer, Town of Alpine Public Education Committee, volunteer, and attended the Annexation commercial moratorium meeting last week. After the meeting, we had to listen to pros, cons, kind of discussion, but there was no rebuttal time. So I just wanted to take a little time to go over the data. So one of the things I wanted to bring up was I wanted to go over everyone's voting record for development annexation. Approved $2.7 million developer credit for previous owner of Alpine Lakes, Targhee Village in Timberview. That was only Jeremy Larson. Other council members were not in office at the time, but I do know Councilman Dickerson and Councilwoman Burchard were part of the approval credit process that Dee spoke to. 166 apartments approved with no impact fees, no water study. At the time, we do know, yes, they're following a land use development code permit process, but I think there's been a lack of, as these large projects came up, that should have been the time for moratoriums to figure out impact fees. So in that case, Councilmans Burchard, Larson, and Dickerson approved that apartment complex. Councilman Castillo, Mayor Green were not in office. 160-room extended stay hotel without impact fees for water and sewer. Councilwoman Castillo was a nay. Councilman Burchard, Larson, and Dickerson were all in favor. Alpine Trailhead, that was the 105 apartments south of town on 16 acres. A will serve letter with no valid water sewer study from the previous town engineer, no expiration date. That was a vote in favor. Councilman Burchard, Larson, Dickerson, Councilwoman, they were all yays. Nays were Councilwoman Castillo and Mayor Green, or actually they were not in office. So what I guess I'm trying to show is we have a program of yes, 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 but then I started to look into Councilwoman Burchard, and not to pick on you, because I also know that side of the table is very stressful. I can't even imagine having all of us stare at you. It's much easier to sit on this side. But the Barry Grice development, it was 4 homes on 2 acres, very much 0.5 acre lots, which in Alpine is actually a good size lot. And it was sent back to planning and zoning 3 times. So it delayed a minor subdivision of 4 homes, cost the taxpayers money just in P&Z time and staff hours. Not a lot. I don't think this is a large ticket item. But what I noticed is that's just 4 homes, and that was sent back 3 times to planning and zoning. A 33-acre annexation, and we were ready to have a 3rd reading tonight. So that kind of concerns me. Then I also want to bring up, and I was on the site committee for Riverview Meadows, and so, which was not fun. I was with Mayor Green, and we were tasked with the approval of the 20 townhomes behind this building. We were threatened to be personally sued if we did not pass it along to the town, which then I'm out. We had hoped the town would send it back to planning and zoning a few times. Our concern was snow storage. It was just too tight. But again, it was passed and moved on. So I think what I'm starting to see is a double standard of we're okay to pass large developments and we don't have impact fees, but if it's in our backyard, well, let's pause a little bit. The other thing I want to bring up is we've always said annexation gives us control, and that I do understand. But what annexation also does is it creates value for the developer of the land. So what I wanted to give everyone, and I'll finish my, True Grit is a development that was 7.92 acres. It was sold for $1.245 million in June of 2022, was annexed in, and then the developers decided, I don't know if it wasn't enough density or what the issue was. It went back on market for $2.2 million, May of this year. So in a matter of 2 years, I don't believe any other property probably doubled in price or at least went up $1 million. But now we've given developers $1 million in equity based on services they haven't paid for. So I think that's one of the things I wanted to share. And then I'll move on to Mr. Larson, Councilman Larson. One of the things you were saying was, I don't see a moratorium if it's not an emergency. One, I only heard emergency during the planning and zoning meeting. I don't believe the ordinance/resolution had the word emergency in it. So with that said, though, and I believe, I did not remember your name, you were Okay, as Mr. Jacobs said, where are we at? I just looked it up as I was sitting here. We only have 250,000 gallons in that tank. It can hold 500, but it can only, I mean, max is 500, but at this point it only holds 250, which Kevin said was 1 day of water. So to me, that's an emergency. And also, if my kids were bleeding out and needed to go to the doctor, I think I'm just having this correlation of an emergency is too late. So what I want is, let's just plan ahead. I think that's where I'm at, where I think we're kind of mixing the two and they don't seem to correspond. One of the other items that came up, and then I will let the next person speak. I think where I'm at is I just want a pause. And I think you guys did make a point. I do think the moratorium should come back split. I think it can be annexation moratorium, and then you can decide on the commercial side. But I think our town needs a breath. And with that said, I think that kind of covers my points. So thank you for your time.
Thanks,
Thank
Shay.
you, Shay.
Getting some great comments tonight. We normally don't give this many people the same thing. Would anyone else like to make a public comment? All right.
May I?
Yeah, please.
Hi there, Megan Rumsey. I just wanted to say that the last meeting did not give us a chance to engage as a community because it was disrupted. And I feel like that's a real travesty to all of us who are taking our time, and to you, so that we can work together and solve some of these issues that we're working with. The sewage and the water are major, major concerns. Councilman Larson went on at length about what he considered and didn't consider an emergency. And to be quite honest, he was given very broad leeway without being called to order. And I feel like that was a very inappropriate use of our time. And in addition to that, after the meeting, there were folks that had some valid questions. And based on hearsay and based on commentary that is out of place, Mr. Larson defamed 3 people in this room and was backed up by yourself, Mr. Mayor. And I feel like I'm shaking right now because I'm so upset that something that happened at another meeting in which you guys set up a private room where we were supposed to go in and ask questions out of the earshot of the deciders was allowed to happen. And therefore, several of us were harassed. We've been afraid for our livelihood, our jobs, for relations in our community. I don't even want my name on this. And now here I am. And I would like Mr. Larson to think about whether or not he'd like to step down or whether or not he'd like to be subject to a petition for his recall. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Rumsey.
Any other comments? I'm going to say something. Okay.
I wasn't planning on saying anything. Heather Goodrich. I just want to say that in reference to what Megan's talking about, what I saw happen to her in that back room at that night was horrifying. I was absolutely shocked at how she was treated. I started filming because I was afraid for her physical safety. It was not a gotcha video. I didn't share it with anyone. I didn't give it to the media. I didn't put it on Facebook. I shared it with Megan and 2 other people that there that night. That's it. Didn't go anywhere else. So to be accused of filming a gotcha video after what I was trying to do was protect this woman I didn't even know, and then not being given the right to even ask a question of someone I voted for without even hearing my side of it. We left that night, the 3 of us, shaking. Megan was not only verbally assaulted, she was physically intimidated. I watched that big man do this to her face.
Which meeting was this, Heather?
At the charter school and at the Civic Center.
Okay.
So I just want to back her up 100%. That was such an appalling situation to be part of. And I purposely didn't film people's faces because I just held it right here because I just wanted a record in case it got physical. So I just want you all to understand that. That was a really upsetting situation, and it's still very upsetting to the three of us. We were literally victims, just sitting there doing nothing. And then you're holding it against us. It's unconscionable the way you treated me last week.
Thank you, Heather.
All right. Any other comments?
If there's no other public comments, I'd like to make a correction statement on some information that was given by the council last week, since we have an audience. So I've spoken with Monica at length, and there's questions surrounding the wastewater treatment plant. Are we over budget? Absolutely. This is a living document. Monica is and has spent an incredible amount of time really putting those numbers together because we've had multiple stages of updating. So I just want the community to know that we are on top of that, and we will be giving an update on our original proposed budget and where we actively are right now with the wastewater treatment plant. We've certainly had a number of change orders. So that's in the works. We also had an engineer who didn't take into account that we needed a few very important things to apply for a DEQ permit. That would be an explosion-proof room, a backup generator. There's been a lot of changes on the engineering side, and that has increased our cost as well. There was also mention of a budget. I think it is disingenuous to give the public one number and expect them to put an entire puzzle together. We do have 3 funds, so I think what was referenced at that meeting was the general fund, and what was given was a number for the revenue. Just so the public's aware, this is a fiscal year 2025 budget that begins on July 1st, 2024 and ends on June 30th, 2025. Our general fund revenue stands at $3,467,410. Revenue. Our expenditures for general fund are $3,453,125, and this is just one fund of 3. So if there's any public that hears a number, has budget questions, I wholeheartedly invite you to not only come to our budget meetings, but to reach out to our clerk, treasurer, and town council if you have any questions regarding budget. And do bear in mind that revenue and expenditures are obviously 2 very different things. I think that's everything.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other comments?
I have one question.
Please.
For my own clarity. My name is Rachel.
Can you
Come
come
on
to the
up.
mic, please? There's still, how many people watching?
20.
Right? 20, okay.
My name's Rachel Jacobs. I'm a Alpine resident. I just want to understand. Clearly, there's something going on about the Alpine Lakes annexation. So you have read it twice, and at the next reading, you're going to approve or not approve.
Correct.
And when is that meeting?
Well, it'd be scheduled for November 19th.
November 19th.
If the legal and
Well,
accounting
that's
review.
Correct.
That's true, yeah. So
So-
it's all
So-
dependent
When
upon,
you table it, it's
Yeah.
tabled until they pick it back up off the table.
Okay.
If you know when you're going to relook at it, then you postpone.
So,
Yeah. So we don't know, but we're assuming next month, but we don't know that.
and the proposal is available, right? And is the legal review available
hasn't been done yet.
as soon as it's complete?
Absolutely.
How many days before you vote?
That's another great question. We would need time to review.
Yeah.
How many days does the public get to review it?
I mean, so typically what happens is, the agenda goes out and the packet goes out the Thursday before the meeting.
Okay.
I think that's probably we're gonna have a lot more time on this particular, agenda item just because there are so many factors that are going into
Right.
it. I mean, literally, we're looking back 6 years and trying to,
Okay.
figure out what happened back then and agreements that were made. And so I think we're going to be super proactive on making sure the transparency is there and the public has the opportunity to,
Ample
Yes.
review
Yes,
time?
time.
Yeah,
we're not going to give
Okay.
you just 4 days.
yeah, okay.
So,
Thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you.
And just since you have interest, if you look back through the agendas, you will be able to see the process of the petition being accepted, which was back in June. You'll be able to see when the annexation report was submitted. The annexation report is a review that includes our engineering, pulls in the report. That's all attached to the annexation report. Has a lot of valuable information, and those concerns about the annexation, about the agreements that they're discussing tonight, was mentioned that town council needed to review them carefully.
I would also point out one other thing. That annexation is the last annexation that was petitioned for previous to our new annexation ordinance, that if you have any interest on reading kind of where it stands going forward, that's interesting. So you can figure out what they used to do versus what they're doing going forward. And in general, the new annexation ordinance puts a lot of the onus on the petitioner to tell us, you know, information as far as like what are you bringing forward? Is it, you know, obviously you have an idea if you're coming in as MRC or commercial or whatever, but you know, then you have to give us a deposit because engineering has to be done. The old way, basically, the town took on a lot of that, the burden. So
Yes.
if you're interested, definitely go and figure out the changes that have been made, because it is literally the last annexation to even consider before everything going forward is under the new annexation ordinance. So that this administration
Yes.
did.
And this
So-
33-acre annexation request, Mr. Conger was correct. This is historically one of the largest, probably number 2 if you just looked at acreage and not ERUs.
Maybe it should be proposed so after the master plan.
It's a good point. You should
I think that
definitely
is a
bring
very
that,
good point.
bring that up during the discussion, for sure. So, anyways, any other comments? This has been great comments. We've never had comments go on this long, so appreciate everyone coming and speaking their voice. It's definitely something that we want to encourage, so want to give you guys opportunity to do that. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you. What is your